Hello everyone, today we're learning about Mציעא Daf Hayomi. We're going to start a line down. Says the Gemara, Amarova, Anibay class, 3 people. They gave money to one person. To buy something. 3 people, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, gave you the money to buy something. If he bought the item for one of them, he bought it for all 3. You can't, and we don't say, oh, he only bought it for Reuven and Shimon and Levi don't get part of the items. No, they're all partners. We don't say this when they all gave him the money together. They were not in separate bundles. If Reuven gave him a separate bundle in a separate wallet, and Shimon gave him a separate one, and Levi gave him a separate one, and he said he bought for Reuven with Reuven's money, so only Reuven gets it. And for Shimon and Levi, who didn't buy for them, and it's not theirs, it all belongs to Reuven. Amar Popi Mishmederova Ahai Setimosa Kanya. So Setimosa was the shopkeeper would go to the guy who sells wine and agree with him a deal on the wine, and he'd put a stamp on the bottle of the barrels of wine that he's agreed to buy, and then he'd take one barrel to the shop and sell it. When that's finished, he'd go collect the second one and so on. So that signing on the barrel is considered a kinyan. So the Gemara, what type of kinyan are we talking about? Rav Chaviva Omar lemikne mamish, it's a proper kinyan. It's like Meshicha. Rabbanon Amri, no. It's enough that it's considered a deal that if one of them goes back on the deal, he's over Mishapara, like we learned in Azov. The halacha is lekabule alei mishipara, that it's only mishipara, it's not proper kinyan because there's no meshicha done. So the Gemara, but Asra the neigel limikne, in the place with the minig that it's a proper kinyan, limikne mamish koni, it's koina, because that's a minig, that's a kinyan. So wherever the minig, if a place that have a minig to do a kinyan, even though that's not kinyan, it's considered a kinyan because they're the Gemira's das. We learned in the Mishnah that oyahu tchila lekoitrin, that in the Mishnah we learned that if the price is set, you could agree with someone on the fixed price to supply him during the year. And we said if the price is not set, but this guy has produce, you could agree with him a price, even a lower price, since he has already the produce. So Amarav, Mechusa Shtaim, if the thing he's selling is Mechusa 2 melachas before it's ready, you could agree on him, and it's considered that he has a produce, even though they still need to do 2 melachas to the produce. Shalois, if you need to do 3 melachas to the produce, ain't a poisek, it's considered that he doesn't have wheat, because he needs still 3 melachas until the wheat is ready, and therefore it's ein loy. And if no yotza ashar, you can't agree with him on a forward deal. The Shmuel Omar, no, depends on something else. Bidei Odom, if the person, the melachas that he needs to be done is dependent by a person that you couldn't do them. Afilu mea poisek, even if it's 100 melachas that still need to be done to this wheat that should be ready wheat, you could agree on a deal as if it's ready wheat. Bidei Shemaim, if what's needed is something that's not depending on you, it depends on Hashem, like rain, let's say. Even if it's missing one thing, it's considered that he doesn't have the produce, and therefore you can't agree with him on a price. So now we're going to bring all the cases of the Mishnah and ask kashas on these shittis. Now we learned in the Mishnah, you could agree with him on the pile of wheat. Fret the Gemara, it's missing a few things. It's mechusa mishta b'chama lemeidash. First of all, to put it in the sun to dry, number 1. Ulemeidash is to stand on the wheat and separate the wheat from its peel. Umidra, and to throw it in the air to separate the wheat from its peels. The first thing is to separate it, and then that means to make it's one piece, to make it into 2 pieces, and then the second thing is to separate the one from each other, that you have only the wheat in it. So l'chora, how could Rav say that if there is 3, you can't be poisek? Here we see that there's 3 things, and you're allowed to be poisek with him. So the Gemara keep going the Shodad B'Chamed V'Yovash. Rav is going to tell you that it's Toma that he dried the wheat already, so it's only Mechusah Tumelochas, and therefore you can be poisek with him. As a Gemara L'Shmuel Doma B'Yedei Shemayim Afilu Achas Ein Poisek. If it depends on something that's not toilet on you, even if it's missing one, you can't do it. The way you separate after you take the peel off, the way you separate the peel from the wheat is you throw it in the air and you need a strong wind, and then the peel that's very light flies away and the wheat lands back over here and we have the wheat. So that strong wind is not dependent on you. So how could you be poisek with him? So the Gemara Efshab and Afwasa, there's a way to do it without depending on the wind. You could take it in a type of sieve and sieve out the wheat from the peels, even though that's a much harder process, but it's possible to do it, and therefore it's not called Tolui B'Yedei Shemayim. We learned in the Mishnah that you could agree a forward deal on the grapes before they even wine, and you make it a deal on the wine. Correct the Gemara of Mechusa Michma, you need to warm it up first. That's number one. To take it to the place where you press the wine. Lemeidash, to step on it. Leminga, to pull out. Once you step on it and it's all liquid, you have to pull the liquid into the place where the wine goes. So that's 4 things. It's a kashan Rav. So the Gemara, Kedetoni Rab Chia. Like Rab Chia in his Brisa writes, ala koima shel zeitzim, meaning that in the next case of the Mishnah where we talk about olives, it's talking about that they warmed already. Ochinami, over here we learn in the Mishnah ala koima shel anovim, that they warmed up already. Practically more of a mechusah cloth. There's still 3 things that needs to be done to take it to the place where you press it, and to pull the wine into the hole. So the Gemara, it's talking about Ba'asra in the place where the minig is, the Udazov, in the one who buys the wine, who did not get, he pulls the wine into its hole after it's pressed. And therefore there's only missing 2 melochas and there's no kasha on Rav. Ba'alamaton shel zeisim, on the zeisim before they press, first of all you need to warm them. And to put it in the place where you press the olives. Lemeidash, to press them. Uleminga, to pull the oil out of the mixture. So the Gemara, the teretz that we brought early on, Tani Rab Chia, like koima shel zeisim, it's somewhat where it's warmed up already. Koima shel zeisim means that it's warmed up already. Correct the Gemara, Yikar class, there's still 3 things left to be done, and Rav said you're only allowed to do this deal if there's only 2 things. So the Gemara, Ba'asra, the one who buys it, he's the one who has to separate the olive oil from the mix. And therefore there's only 2 things missing, and therefore there's no cash on Rav. On the balls of the clay, you still have to roll it, vibushi, to dry it, to put it in the oven, lemisraf, to burn, or lemefak, to take it out. There's 4 things. It's a cash on Rav. Rav said only if there's 2 things you're allowed to do a deal. So the Gemara could go in the melafef of a yevishu. It's already rolled and dried. Practically more of a class is still 3. So the Gemara, no, Ba'asra Daudazov, and the one who buys it, he has to take out of the oven, and therefore there's only 2 things, and therefore you're allowed to do a deal. Sid, once it's in the fireplace, even before it's burnt, practically more of a mechusa makle, it's missing makle to burn it, vafuke, to take it out, umeidak, it means to separate it and to make it into dust, into like a flour. So there's 3 things. How can Rav say that you could only do a deal on 2 things? So the Gemara, Ba'asra Daudazov, the one who buys it, he's the one who takes it from the oven and makes it into powder. So there's only 2 things. As the Gemara, L'Shmuel, even if there's 100 melochas that still need to be done, you're allowed to agree on a forward deal, on a forward contract. So why over here, why do you need it that it's already in the fire? Even if it's before it's in the fire. So the Gemara, it doesn't mean when it's already in the fire, even if it's enough that he prepared the wood and the fire and everything is in his hands, and he has all the items that are needed, and therefore that's good enough to close with him the deal, even though that there's lots of melachas that still need to be done. We learned in the Brisa, until they're done already. That's Shittas Rameh. Omar Rabbi Yossi b'medvor marmurin. When do we need that it should be muchon biyodo and ready ba'ofalovon? When it's about white clay, and white clay is hard to get, and therefore, and the only way that make it is only when it's in like egg type of form. Abo ba'ofa shachar or black clay, they are very easy to get. Going Kfar Chanina v'Chavar, like we have a lot in Kfar Chanina and around Kfar Chanina, or in Kfar Shichin v'Chavar, what is a lot in Kfar Shichin and in the neighborhood villages. Poiskim, you're allowed to do a forward contract, even if you do a deal with Reuven and Reuven doesn't have, but he could always go to Shimon. It's like Yotza Ashar. There is no problem. A Meima would give money from the stage that the person had the dust of the clay, of the black clay in his house. Keman, who is that going to like? Rameya holds you need to wait till a later stage till you could do a forward contract. He doesn't need to have anything because he could buy from someone else. So why did he wait until he has in his house? He really holds like Rabbi Yossi. In the place where Ameima lived, Oshik Afra. The Afra, the clay was very expensive. Afra, if he has it in his house, some and once he gives the money, there's Mishupra, and there's already Mishupra. If he doesn't have in his house, there's no smichus das. He's giving him the money that if he's gonna have, we could do a deal, but if he won't get it, the deal's cancelled and there's no deal. And therefore, he had to wait until the person would have it in his house. We learned in the Mishnah, he could do a forward contract on Minor, all the year, and then let's see it in the Mishnah a second. I'm based on the base. It says then Rabbi Yossi says you're not ein poiskim ala zevel, elohim ken oiselo zevel ba'ashba, only if he has some zevel, and chachomim materim. So l'chora chachomim and Tanakama is the same. Frag the Gemara chachomim ayin Tanakama. What's the difference? What the three shittis over here? Omarova in Daled on base. Omarova yimoisak shomim ike benayu. So Rabbi Yossi holds he has to actually have minor to close with him a forward contract. Tanakama holds the whole year. No different. Even if he doesn't have, he could get it from someone else. And chachomim hold depends. If it's the summer days where everyone have it, so you could close with him a deal even if he doesn't have, his friend has. But in the rain days where it's harder to get, you could only close with him a forward contract if he actually has it. So therefore we have here three shittas. One shitta you always allowed, one shitta is you never allowed only if he has, and chachomim in the middle, in the summer even if he doesn't have, and in the winter only if he has. So we learned in the Mishnah that you could do a deal and tell the guy about the forward contract that you're paying him £1 a kilo and he'll supply you during the year, that if it's going to go the price down and it's going to be 2 kilos for £1, he has to supply you 2 kilos. But if he doesn't do this deal, so he loses. This man, he gave money for Nedunya. Nedunya is for the tachshitim, is for the jewelry for Kala. So he went to the jewelers and he gave them money for the Nedunya, for the jewelry. His father-in-law sent him to go do a deal on the jewelry and to supply it when the wedding comes. L'soif, when the wedding came about, Zol Nedunya, the price of the jewelry of the Nedunya went down in price. Also, they came in front of our papa, Omale. So he said, if you agreed with him to say that you're going to get supply, if the price is going to go down, you're going to get the lower price, shocking cash, so take the lower price like now. If you never agreed on the lower, that if the price goes down, you'll get the lower price. Shokil Kimikori, you have to take like the higher price like you agreed on at the beginning. Amule Rabbanon Rav Papa, Rabbanon to Rav Papa, Ve'loi Posik, Shokel Kemikara. If he doesn't agree on it, he takes the money, he has to pay the higher price. Moisninu. All he did is he gave these people money. He didn't do Meshicha. Mois loikonu, Mois don't do a kinyan. So why can't he be choize boy? Omalehu, he told them, "Ano nami likibule olei mishipora kamina." I didn't mean to say that the mechira and he can't change his mind. I meant to say that if he changes his mind, he gets mishipora. But it's not pshat that there's an actual mechira happening over here. The Gemara explains, if when he gave the money, he said that if the price goes down, he wants to get the lower price, and now the moicha doesn't want to supply it for the low price. So the moicha is the one who's stopping this deal to go through. So the moicha gets punished with mishapara dermabalu also lipara mikol mishaina oimen b'dubura like we learned in Azov. If he didn't agree on the lower price, if he goes down in price, so who's changing his mind now? The loikech is the one who's changing his mind. So the buyer is the one who gets on him mishapora. Amale Ravina Lora Papa said Ravina Lora Papa Mimai Durabonon he the pligale Durab Shimon. So let's explain first. There was a machloikis at the beginning of Azov that Rabbanon hold that when Reuben gave Shimon money for item and they didn't do Meshicha, so Ben them Koina Reuben, Ben the Moicha Shimon could both change their mind. And Reb Shimon says that only the seller can change his mind, the buyer can't change his mind. So how do we know that the Mishnah by us it's Rabbanon the Pili Golei the Reb Shimon? The Amri who hold Mois Loikonu, the hold the Mois, they both could be choiz and there's no kinyan. If we're going to say it's Rabbanon, so it says in our Mishnah, only if he agreed on the lower price, if he goes down in price, he could take the lower price like now. If he didn't agree on that, if he didn't agree on that, he has to take the higher price. How do we know that our Mishnah is Rabbanon? Dilma, maybe Rab Shimon. Maybe our Mishnah is Rab Shimon who holds Mois Koinos, Doma Mois Koinos. When he agreed on the lower price, if it goes down in price, Shokil Keashto, he will take like now the lower price. But if he never agreed on that, Shokil Mekar, then he has to pay the higher price like when he agreed on. Because the money is a kinyan if you're Rab Shimon, and therefore he can't change his mind. But maybe our Mishnah is Rab Shimon, Aval Rabbanon who argue in Rab Shimon, Bein Posak, Bein Loi Posak, doesn't matter if he agreed on the lower price, or he never agreed on the lower price, Shokil Kashto, he can take the lower price like it's now. Why? The Inishatara Zila, that when someone gives money for a forward contract, he has in mind that if the price goes down, it's going to get the lower price, and if not, if he doesn't want to supply him the lower price, he wants his money back. So maybe our Mishnah is Rab Shimon, and Chachamim argue, and we go like Chachamim. So why are you paskening like our Mishnah? Amalei. So Rav Papa answered Ravina. Rab Shimon. When did Rab Shimon say that only the moicha ki b'choizer boy and not the loikeach b'chatara? If the price never changed between when he gave the money till when he wants to change his mind, betrayed Harry when the price changed. Mi Oma, did Rab Shimon say that only the moicha ki b'choizer and not the loikeach? For sure, Rab Shimon agreed on that then the loikeach could be choiza, and we're going to bring a right to that in a second. And therefore, in such a case where the price change, everyone agrees. There's no machlokas between Rab Shimon and Rabbanon, and therefore in our Mishnah where the price change, it must be to everyone. And afilu ochi, it says that you need to be poisek kimoy kishagavoy, and if not, you have to pay the higher price. Said Rav Papa, if you're not going to tell me the follow that Rab Shimon agrees when the price changed, Rab Shimon Leslie. It doesn't. You'll never have Mishapara by Lokeach because the Lokeach can never change his mind. And if you're going to tell me maybe if you're Rab Shimon, Mishapara is only by the Moicha, not by the Lokeach. It can't be so. But Tanya would end in the Brisa early on. Mikol Mokom Kachalocha. Even though that we said that Moisein and Koino is And a person can change his mind. Aval Amru Chachamim said, Aval Amru Chachamim Mishapar Midor Mapol B'chulei, he'll get punished for someone who changes his words. My Mikol Mokim, what if Loshen the Brisa, anyhow? The Loshen Mikol Mokim, Lav, they're not coming to tell you the Loshen Olekach, the Loshen Moicha. But it doesn't make a difference if it's a Olekach, doesn't matter if it's a Moicha who changes his mind, he gets Mishapara. And who said this Brisa early on? It's Reb Shimon. And you can see, Loishno Loikach, Loishno Mochim, Mekabale Mishapara, all of her, Reb Shimon said that the Loikach can't be Choyzer boy. Elamai, there's a difference between if the price changed or the price didn't change. Elo, Kikom, Reb Shimon Bechatara. Reb Shimon only spoke when the price didn't change. Betreitari, when the price changed, Loi Omar. And therefore, there's no machlekes when the price changed. And our Mishnah is talking about when the price changed. Therefore, if it must be going lefi kula alma, bein lefi Reb Shimon, bein lefi Rabbono. Omar le Rav Acha Bredi Rabba le Rav Ashi. I have a different cash on this whole story. The Teibuklei, the Shliach Shavi Meikora. The father-in-law sent his son-in-law to do this deal. So the father-in-law could say, I sent you I sent you to do me good, not to do me bad, and you didn't do the good deal because you said that you should have said, if the price goes down, I'm going to pay only the lower price. So he could tell the shliach, I don't want you, and the shliach is only a shliach. He doesn't have mishapara. He's not changing his words. He wants to keep the deal. It's the father-in-law is canceling the deal. So what's the problem over here? Omalei, Betagra, the Zovinu Masbin. It's not talking about that the father-in-law send the son-in-law to buy as a messenger, doing a message, and go to the dealer and agree on a dunya on a certain price. No, it's talking about that the son-in-law was buying himself from the dealer, and then he was selling to his father-in-law for a bit of a higher price to make a little bit of money. So therefore, there's no shlichus over here, and therefore it's the son-in-law who's choizer boy, and if he wants to be choizer, he'll get on him mishapara because he's choizer on a deal that he agreed on. Said the Mishnah, Mal ve'odo mesarisov chitin b'chitin nezera. So a person has an Aryeh, someone who goes into his field and he has to pay a certain percentage or agreed amount on the produce of the field. So a person is allowed to lend, the landlord is allowed to lend his Aryeh chitin b'chitin, let's say 10 kilo of chitin, to get back 10 kilo of chitin when the chitin grows, lezera, for planting. But he's not allowed to lend, a person's not allowed to lend a person 10 kilo of chitin for him to eat and he'll pay me back in a later stage because maybe the price of chitin is going to go up. Says the Mishnah, why do we need to tell you this din? He used to do so, but he used to be extra machmir. If he agreed if when he gave it was expensive and now it went down in price, or if it was a cheaper price and when he gave it and now the price went up, he would always take back the lower price. If the price at the beginning was lower, he would take back the lower price, meaning if let's say at the beginning was 10 kilos worth 10 pounds and now the price went up, he'd only take a value back of 10 pounds. And if it was the opposite, the price went down, he'd only take the lower price like now, at the value of money at the beginning. Said the Mishnah, not because the halacha is so and that's why Rabbi Gamliel did it. Rabbi Gamliel was machmer on himself, and that's why the beginning of the Mishnah has to tell you that it's only a chmara, but if a normal person doesn't have to do the same, and he could give him 10 kilos and he receive back 10 kilos. Tanu Rabbanon, we learned in the Brisa, Malva Odom Esarisov Chitim Bechitim Lezera, a person's allowed to give his oris chitim to get back chitim if it's meant for sowing the ground. When can he do that? When the oris didn't go into the field yet, and he didn't start working the field. Aval yorad, if the oris went down to the field and started plowing the field, and now he wants to do with him such a deal, also it's forbidden. Correct the Gemara, Maishno, what's the difference? Tony Didon, the our Mishnah, the Loiko Maflik bin Yorad bin Yorad, that there's no difference between if the guy went down into the field or not. Maishno Tony Bura, the price of the outside price, the Komaflik bin Yorad bin Yorad, that does tell you a difference if the oris went into the field or not. What's the difference? Omarova, Ravidi Aspirinili, Ravidi explained me the chilik. The Asra the Tony Didon, in the place of our Mishnah, Arisa Yoy Bizra. The Oris was the one who's meant to supply the wheat to sow in the ground. So therefore, Bein Yorad, Bein Lo Yorad. It doesn't matter if the Oris went into the field or he didn't go into the field. Kama de Lo Yoy Bizra. If he doesn't have what to plow the field with, what to sow the field with, Moti Mesalikle, the landlord could kick him out, could tell him, listen, you don't have anything to plant in this field, leave my field. So now when I'm giving him, when the landlord is giving him the wheat to plow the field, the he's giving, the Oris is willing, he knows that he's going into this field to get a lower amount of profit, because he has to give what grows afterwards, a certain amount goes back to the landlord. Like he gave him 10 kilos, so the first 10 kilos first of all goes to the landlord, and then the rest we split up. And therefore he's going down into the field for a bit of a worse deal, and that's, you could close with Oris any deal you want. But Asher the Tanabura in the Brisa, Mori Aryeh Bizra, the landlord is the one who gives the seeds to plant. Ilo Yorad, if he never went down into the field yet, the Motzi Mesalikle, they can still tell him, I don't want to do with your deal anymore. Kiko Nochis. So if he tells him, okay, I can still kick you out, but if you want, I'll give you the wheat, the seeds to plant, and you'll get less. And he agrees to it. So Kikonochis, when he went into the Botzimach Kikonochis, he agrees to go on not as a good deal. But Yorad, if already the Oris went down into the field and started to work the land, so the landlord can't kick him out, and the landlord is the one who has to give the seeds. Also, now he's not allowed to lend. Like we said, the person's not allowed to lend his friend chitin and to get back chitin. But the only case where it's mutter is like by us, when the deal, part of the deal is that the landlord gets a certain amount of chitin at the end of the year. And that's part of the deal. It's just going into the field with a less good deal. And that's mutter. It's not considered like alva. A person's allowed to tell his friend, Alveni ku chitin, lend me please a kuro, that's amount of chitin, v'koitzetzle domim. And they fix a price to it. They say, okay, a kur chitin is worth £100, and you have to give me back worth £100. Uzlu, if it went down in value, and now kur chitin is worth only £50, noisin lo chitin. He gives him back a kur chitin. Ukru, if the chitin worth now £200, noisin demeim. He gives the value that they agreed on the beginning. £100. Frag the Gemara. What are you saying that he gives him back less chitin? He gives him chitin on the lower price, or he gives him. The whole idea was that they were koitzet. They said this chitin, this kur chitin is worth £100, and you have to return to me £100. So if the price changed, how is it they returns him a different amount of value? Doesn't make any sense. Really, if he was koitzet, he has to give him a value of £100. Doesn't matter what happened if it went down up for value. But if they never valued the amount of chitin, how much it's worth now, if it went down in price, he takes back the wheat because there's no ribis. He gave him a kur of chitin worth £100. Now it's worth £50. He gives him back a kur of chitin. Okru, but if the price went up and it's now worth £200, if he gives him back a kur of chitin, it's type of ribis. Noisin demeim. He only gives back £100 and not a penny more, because otherwise it looks like ribis. Shkoyach.